welcome everyone to today's call. Our nonprofit group has been meeting for months now, every 2 weeks, which has been great. It's nice to hear what everybody is up to. I appreciate everybody taking the time to be on the call every couple of weeks. And for Dave to lead this group, it's been great. Today's gonna be a little different, so we'll just get into it. I appreciate, again, everybody's time, and I'm gonna turn it over to Dave now, and we're gonna get started, and then Senator McSally will join us, like he said, at 4:30.
Yeah, and just to kind of be clear that she's joining us in her capacity as our senator, and we'll be talking on issues currently in front of the Senate or being dealt with by the administration. We're purposely avoiding election type topics, wanting to be cognizant of issues related to nonprofits and electioneering and elected officials and all those kinds of things. So just wanted to make sure, and then we'll say that again before when the senator gets on. And we've talked talked to her about that as well. So the appointment was set by her her Senate staff, not her campaign staff. So just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, here we are again, another couple weeks later. Doesn't seem like much has changed other than case counts are going down in Arizona, as everybody knows. Unemployment also is a little bit down too, which is good. Hopefully people are finding work and getting back to work. One of the things I wanted to ask the group about was layoffs and hiring. In the nonprofit industry, I know a lot of folks have gone through a lot of funding struggles that we've canceled, special events that are fundraisers for us. And a variety, I think Melissa earlier was talking to a few of you about some of the challenges we've had with food drives. And so I kind of wanted to hear from some of our nonprofits and churches and others that are on the call about their, are you laying people off? Are you hiring? Are you working reduced hours? What are some of our nonprofit partners experiencing in town? And after we talk about that a little bit, maybe we can explore if there are people that have reduced hours. Are there people that need help that can hire some of our colleagues at reduced rates, or at not reduced rates necessarily, but at lower hours to give us a little bit of help if we're busy? So I just wanted to explore that topic just a little bit. So, I'll probably put somebody on the spot like Shelly or Ray or Joe or Larry, talk a little bit about what you might be experiencing. David, are you anybody going through doing layoffs with their staff at their nonprofits?
Dave, we initially, back in early spring, did some layoffs, so we had a reduction in staff. But we did apply for and receive a loan from the PPP, and that allowed us to hire and add to our staff. We still have many openings left, and we are doing some hiring right now.
Nice. And what kind of jobs do you have available?
It's a wide range. We've been looking for grant writers. I just hired a volunteer coordinator. I know that all of our programs, many of our programs are hiring right now. Frontline workers are needed. So from our shelter programs to after school programs, we have openings.
Okay, if you're hiring, put your name and your hiring manager's contact info in the chat box so people can grab that. Because in our network, we have people that have experience within working for various nonprofits. So that'll give us an opportunity to share resources or staff. Anyone else? David, anything going on at a New Leaf? You're on mute, David.
Sorry. Like Joe said, as far as for the agency, the reduction, I'm in a shelter. I'm one of those places that have like a case manager opening. We've gotten in the final expansion beds. So now we're just trying to hire the additional staff as we try to work to fill the beds, which is both challenging, like I mentioned earlier, but overnight staff, just shelter operation duties type of things, support partners, direct care staff type of work. So a lot of our we go through Indeed. So if you went to Indeed.com and search for a new leaf, and you can find all our openings, or our website at www.turnanewleaf.org.
Very good. I know we just hired somebody. We had a very difficult time finding accounting staff. We were adding to our accounting staff, and we ended up having to go through a headhunter because it was difficult to fill that kind of position. But we are hiring for folks in our development staff, and we typically always have an opening or two for Class B truck drivers. So anybody else? Nadia, Sandra, George, I'm trying to see other people on my screen. Jenny, Joe.
I'll go next.
Thanks, Ray.
Here at CAFA, we did not have to lay anybody off. Most of our funding comes through VOCA and DES. So we already had secure funding through this whole time period. So we really didn't need any kind of additional funding or any kind of worry about losing any funding. We did not apply for the PPP mainly because of the fact that we had all the secure funding. We were able to get additional funding through the CARES Act from different groups, so that really helped us out quite a bit. And we also got additional funding from various foundations who we already worked with, who decided to give us additional funding because of what we were going through. And then we had a couple of private companies who gave us some real large donations that really helped us get through the whole process. So it's been actually very good for us. When we first started this whole process, we did work on alternative schedule, even though we were considered essential personnel. We did that for about, I would say, almost 2 months. Now everybody's back to work, both our outreach staff and our shelter. Everybody's back to normal working hours. We just take the normal precautions, the wearing masks, and we have other kinds of secure things in place to make sure that we don't have any problems. And I only have one position opening right now, and that's for a overnight shelter advocate. It's a 30-hour position, and but that's the only position I have open right now.
Very good. If you'll refer to the chat box, Joe, Nicole, Sandra, John Zalanka have all posted some links for possible jobs. And Bob, thanks for posting that. If you have an opening that you could share at the mesachamber.org website, Linda Haskell will give you a little assistance there for posting jobs. Now, I know we have a few private sector partners on the call as well. I know I see Rustin at APS or others. How is the hiring going on at your organizations? Are you, do you have a lot of openings, people applying for those roles? How are things going there? Rustin, why don't we start with you if you're still on? Where did you go? I lost you. There he is. He's muted. Rustin? Are you still by the now? Maybe he's not by the phone anymore. Mark, Joe, Eric, anybody else, even Peggy or Keith? How are your workforces looking in relation to COVID and that kind of thing?
We are still hiring for general labor to work in our warehouse, and we are also looking for an accounting bookkeeper. So we'll keep looking unless somebody can refer someone to us.
Well, you know, we haven't had that experience as of yet of not being able to fill the seats. We usually train from within, but about a year and a half ago, we started our own temping agency to kind of help employ, you know, men and women who are kind of hard to get employment. So we've been able to kind of tap into our own database, and you know, that's been great. So, I mean, if someone is looking for some help that's willing to work with a nonprofit temp agency, we always have guys who are qualified to do labor jobs, short term and long terms. And pricing, we're extremely competitive. And the good thing to know is that 100% of the money goes back into Streets of Joy, helping us operate. So that's one of the things that has been kind of to our advantage, you know, during this COVID situation, is when the marketplace changed a little bit. There was not a lot of people looking for work because they were getting the unemployment. So we were able to capture, you know, some different market shares at the time. But we're definitely not at the point where we're covering 100% of our overhead yet. But you know, we always looking for other opportunities to share our labor resource pool with. So if anyone was looking for some general labor, we could definitely help you out.
Eric, thank you. Peggy, that might be a resource for you. Eric, when you park, I know that you're driving a little bit, get into the chat box and please leave your contact information so people can reach out to you if they have some openings for you. And I'm going to keep you in mind too. We oftentimes have general labor needs in our warehouse. We like to start people out and train them up and get them skilled up. So teach them how to drive a forklift and all that. So anybody else want to share?
I think Nicole has some positions.
So for our current SCS vets, we have a couple sort of lower level positions open right now. We're hiring for like a 9-month-long marketing intern. And then we're also hiring for a shorter term like videographer contract. So if you know anyone with experience on the videography side for nonprofits, we'd certainly love your recommendations. I'll throw the postings in the chat as well. And then we will be hiring for some more senior level roles in the near future. We just don't have those postings up yet.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So it sounds like there's some jobs out there to be had. I know it's a bit of a tight job market, but with unemployment running out, it was a topic that I thought we should explore a little bit within our group. You know, folks that have been laid off are out looking in the job market, and some people are taking advantage of the extra $300. Some people may be taking advantage of the Social Security employee side holiday through the end of the year. I was going to ask that question next. Are any of you doing the Social Security holiday? If you guys don't know what I'm referring to, that's the president's executive order about being able to forego payment of the employee's side. So you leave that money in the employee's paycheck rather than doing the match for Social Security and payroll tax. I think it's all the payroll tax if I remember right. But the catch is it has to be repaid between January and April or May of next year. So it gives you some short-term relief, but the borrowing gets repaid in the long term. So I know that all of the food banks in Arizona, the major ones, St. Mary's Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona, Yuma, us, none of us are doing that. And we have not had any employees request that we do so. Curious, any of you guys considering that program?
We're not doing it right now, but I know our CFO is looking for some more guidance on this. Our concern is that employees will face, you know, that additional tax, that repayment of that down the road. So we're being a little cautious about it right now.
Yeah, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree, Ray. I mean, Joe. I was looking at Ray while I said your name. There's C. Sally. I struggle with names once again.
I'll send you a T-shirt.
It's how I'm supplementing my wardrobe now. So.
Hey, Dave, Rustin's back on. If you
Oh, Rustin, you there? Sally, you teased me.
He is.
Rustin.
Unmute, Rustin.
Oh, there you are. Hey,
there
Rustin,
we go. Sorry, guys.
We've been talking about employment. You work for one of the largest employers in the state in APS. Are you guys, do you have lots of active positions that you're advertising to hire for, or is APS reducing its workforce?
So, I mean, I can certainly check in with our labor team and our HR team, but I'll answer directly on aps.com. That's the resource for all of our job postings, and that's updated daily. So that's where I direct everybody that's looking for work. As far as what the future looks like, slowdowns and speed ups, you know, a lot of that is market dependent. and a lot of it has to do with how quickly the state's growing. So that's the short answer on that. But I would refer everybody to aps.com for the latest and greatest job postings.
Okay.
Dave, Mesa Public Schools has some openings. Marlo may want to comment on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Marlo
I mean,
shared.
I posted our link to our HR postings. You know, given the certain situation we're in, we don't have kids back yet, but we are moving in that direction as long as the infection rates continue to go down. But with that said, we are in need of instructional aides and other support staff. We have a lot of full-time and part-time positions. We're also looking at adding what we've kind of deemed COVID-19 relief, and really what it is hiring part-time folks to help maybe relieve a teacher who needs to go have lunch and we're not moving kids into the cafeteria and those types of things. Those positions haven't been posted yet, but we are going to be probably posting them here shortly. So lots of positions if there are people in need of jobs.
Thank you. And I know Cigna is a pretty large employer. Erica, do you have anything that you could report on that front? Looking for the mute button. Where is it? Where is it? There you go.
Sorry. So Cigna hasn't had any layoffs or anything of that nature. We are hiring some positions. The best place to find those is going to be Cigna.com or jobs.cigna.com. There's currently 77 jobs listed open in Arizona. So a good amount of those are in our Cigna Medical Group offices. So anyone who has medical experience or working in a medical office, and also some frontline positions at our Express Scripts facilities, which are in Tempe, and I think mostly they're in Tempe. I think there might be one down in Chandler-ish. So.
Very good. Very good. It's, so anybody else on employment, layoffs, etc.? Not
yes. Hospice of the Valley is looking for RNs and social workers, bereavement counselors. We have had no layoffs at all. In fact, business is booming. So if anybody knows any healthcare professionals that are looking to work in an awesome environment and want to work for a great company, refer them please to hov.org, and that'll take them wherever they need to go to make application.
I'm sorry to hear that business is booming, but
I know, me too.
We're glad that there's some employment opportunities that are related to that. So, you know.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Dave, it's with House of Refuge. Just real quick, just wanted to let the group know that we've reassigned some of our talent, and because some of the opportunities have shifted, we did have a reduction a little bit, but we were also, again, able to reassign because we've been doing really good professional development. And, so we've got a staff that has a pretty good scope of experience in several different areas. So we reassigned some people, and, we did have a bit of a reduction in staff a while ago. But now, things seem to be pretty stable, and we'll be probably moving some people back into other positions. So it's kind of a nice little opportunity where they're doing, different things based on their talent and their experience, and where we're kind of re-engineering ourselves, so to speak, during the interim.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Mark at House of Refuge, everyone. Also in the chat box, Nadia referred back to the AmeriCorps openings on the MesaUnitedWay.org website, as well as Christine with Noah Webster looking for some part-time help around their campus. So few jobs out there. So if you know anyone that's looking for employment, there's opportunity out there. Let's see if we can't get some people matched up and out of my food line. So that's our hope. I gave a tour last week to some ASU students who want to help us work out a few little ideas. And they asked me what the growth plan of United Food Bank was. And I basically just related our growth plan is that everybody has jobs and they're able to buy their own food and the food bank gets to close. And that's really what our mindset is. We know that's probably not going to be the reality, but really that's our hope is that people are going to be able to be employed and be able to get things that they need. From a food bank standpoint, we're continuing to, our service has been flat over week after week. So we're still around 1,700, 1,800 families every week. Our food distribution at Mesa, at the Wells Fargo branch at University and Gilbert has concluded and is shifting to Apache Junction. So for the next 8 Wednesdays, we'll be at the Wells Fargo on Apache Trail right by a Walmart there out in Apache Junction. So if you know people in the Far East Valley that have some hunger issues that they need help with, they can come on over to the Wells Fargo branch. It's going to be drive-through style like it was in Mesa, and we'll be addressing and handing out some food there. We'll also continue to be at the Mesa Convention Center through September at least, possibly October. But we're starting to make plans about what it might look like to move back to our Javelina facility or an alternate facility if we have to leave the Mesa Convention Center to do a drive-through. I wanted to note we have staff from Senator McSally's office and I believe Congressman Biggs' office. I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes before we welcome Senator McSally. Lee, do you want a couple of minutes? You can sing a song, you can share whatever you'd like.
No, I simply want to say thank you to all for what you all do in the community, especially during this hard time that COVID has had such a effect on us. So thank you very much to all of you.
Dave, I have one thing to offer for the group. We're launching our Supply My Class campaign tomorrow. This is our 3rd year. So if anybody on the call knows a teacher that's working in a Title I school that's in APS service territory, please encourage them to go to supply-my-class.com. It takes about 60 seconds to fill out the application. And if they're selected from the pool, they can win a $500 gift card, which they can use to purchase supplies for their classroom, just like the name implies. So that starts tomorrow at noon. SupplyMyClass.com is the website, and you can follow me on Twitter. I'll be posting about that as well.
Nice, thank you, Rustin. Appreciate that. That's a fun process. It's fun to see the teachers that win. They get pretty excited. David Romney and Abby, did you guys want anything to add? Anything? We have a few minutes before we welcome Senator McSally.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Just to echo what Lee said, first of all, thank you all so much for everything that you're doing for residents of the East Valley. We saw firsthand, Lee and I went out to House of Refuge last Friday morning with Sally. It was really remarkable to see, people from all walks of life are in need right now, based on the economic impacts that everyone's feeling. So thank you all for what you're doing. And in that same vein, if there are volunteer opportunities for us and our staff here in the district to help out, whether that's a food giveaway or some other kind of program, please contact my office. I'll post our contact information in the chat box. But if you guys would like to reach out to us, if you have opportunities where we can come and serve, we're more than happy to do so.
Thanks, David. Abby, I guess we'll reserve for you all of Martha's time, unless you have something you want to add real quick.
Nope, you guys don't get to hear from me and hear my voice this week. You guys get the senators, so.
Very good. Referring back to the chat group, Sue Wilcox from Park University posted that they have a couple of positions open. The high school relations manager and an academic success coach. Those both sound incredibly interesting jobs. Michelle, thanks for adding the link to the Cigna jobs board. And then, so TJ asked a question about the Wells Fargo and Apache Junction. We will be there every Wednesday night from starting about, we start setting up at 5 p.m. We usually open the lines about 5:45 or so, and it runs until the food runs out. Usually in Mesa, we had been serving 300 families in about 50 minutes. So it goes incredibly quickly. I don't expect it to go quite as quickly in Apache Junction, and I expect it to be the crowd to be a little bit smaller. It's just, you can't move people on horseback through the lines as quickly as cars, and loading into the saddlebags takes a little extra time. So sorry, Sally. You know, I told my staff, I said, in the 8-week period, we're going to hand out food here. We will have one person come through here on horseback. So, you know, and I'm guessing every Wednesday night we'll have somebody come through with a gun strapped to their hip. So that's Apache Junction for you, and we love it. I love Apache Junction. TJ, those come, if you want to volunteer, just come show up. We'll put you to work somehow. We're at, again, we start setting up about 5 o'clock. All right. Is Martha in the green room yet?
Not yet.
Okay. All right.
Any minute, right, Abby?
Hey, Dave.
Yes. Alicia. Yes. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Hey, about the food distributions that you guys are doing at the convention center and out in Apache Junction, you said you were going to continue to do those possibly through October. Is that what you said?
Possibly. So we do have an agreement with Mesa to do them through the end of September. They had an event, the last event at the convention center in October has now canceled. And so the city has been funding the use of the convention center staff and the convention center itself through CARES Act money. So we're reviewing the budget there to see if there's sufficient funding in the budget to be able to continue to use the convention center through the end of October.
And then do you find, I'm just kind of curious because some people have asked me about this, are you finding that like the smaller food pantries that normally do the distributions, I mean, because that's not really been your gig except for like the Friday fresh food kind of thing. Are you finding that they're needing less food because people are coming through the Friday? Do you
No, so yeah, I know what you're asking, Alicia, and it's the right question. I appreciate you asking that. We're not seeing people divert from other food banks to our distribution because of the drive-through distribution we're doing on Fridays. We're seeing less people at other agencies because of the Farmers to Family Food Box program. So right now that Farmers to Families Food Box program is being distributed to any nonprofit organization or church that will take delivery of the items if they have a relationship with the vendor. And so 75 million boxes nationwide have been distributed over the last 4 months into the communities. And it's great product, fresh fruits and vegetables, dairy, sour cream, all kinds of really, really good stuff. And so it's wonderful that they're out there, but we have seen a corresponding decrease in demand at some of our usual TFAP related distributions because of it. Now we haven't seen an overall drop in our emergency food box number because of what we do at Wells Fargo. It kind of levels that out, but we typically do about 40,000 a month. And of the actual TFAP, we're only doing about 32,000 a month right now. So that's a decrease in 8, but that is not a correlating decrease in demand. What's happening is that other Farmers to Family Food Box program, I get calls from churches, I get calls from Rotary clubs that have leftover boxes from those programs asking if I can take them off their hands. We always say yes, we take them, we put them out in the community, and we put them to good use. So it's been a little bit of a, yeah.
The senator is entering the room. Just a heads up.
She muted me.
That's funny.
So Alicia, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Very good. All right.
Okay.
So
I'm looking for her on the call. There she is. All right. Senator, you are muted. There you are. Good. Hi. Thanks so much for being here. Hey, before we get started, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Chamber and our Board of Directors and all of our committees. We've appreciated your support, but you know, we appreciate you having your staffers involved in all of our committees, from the Industry and Defense Council to this call, our financial network, our aging committee. I mean, we feel very supported and we love the engagement. So I just wanted to say thank you because it's really important to us.
Absolutely, Sally. I hope everybody's hanging in there.
We're hanging in there, yeah. So I want to turn this over to Dave, and he's going to give a little overview, and then we're going to hear from you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Senator McSally, it's great to see you again.
Good to see you, Dave. Virtually, soon in person. One of these days we'll defeat this pandemic.
Can't wait, can't wait. So just a reminder to everyone on the call that this is, we're hosting Senator McSally in her official capacity in her Senate office. This is not related to the campaigns that are going on. I know as nonprofit leaders, we're all sensitive to our nonprofit status and campaigning and that kind of perception. We were reached out to by the senator's staff to have her come and talk about issues that are facing the country and specifically things that are happening in the Senate. So just wanted to frame that a little bit for you, Senator. And maybe we could start out your comments with some questions about the CARES Act. Been lots of talk about a second stimulus. What are you seeing in the Senate?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I first want to say thanks to all of you for just everything you do for the residents of Mesa, and especially in this first in a century pandemic. I mean, what you do every single day is so critical, but I mean, it's just been an extraordinarily difficult year. So I hope you're all hanging in there personally as well. And you know, yourself, your health, your loved ones, some of your kids, I'm sure have kids running around, not in school, and just like the real challenges that are happening in everybody's lives, and you know, the impact on so many people in the community as well. This is a whole of society approach to this. And so when the pandemic hit, and Sally's heard me, you know, talking on many calls, many chamber type calls about this, we, you know, our thinking in those early days was just speed was the most important thing, to just get relief out the door as quickly as possible. And the federal government and speed are not usually in the same sentence, but we really felt like on top of the impact, the health impact of this virus and the economic impact, we just didn't want the economy spiraling down and the economic collapse and the additional catastrophe that would come from that. So when people were asked not to work in order to save other people's lives, we were just trying to blunt the blow and get cash out the door as quickly as possible through as many means as possible. So that included the, you know, stimulus checks and the Paycheck Protection Program and the expanded unemployment. It was just like, get money out the door. Make sure that small businesses can stay afloat, people can hang in there, employees and employers can stay connected to each other, and people can put food on the table and pay their bills as we were hunkering down to, you know, still learning a lot about the virus. So I'm just trying to think, you know, go back to where we were at the time, which was, you know, speed. And when obviously you do something with speed, it's not perfect. And so since then, we've been trying to make sure we identify where's the gaps and what else needs to be done. You know, we've heard from a lot in the nonprofit community about a number of issues. And so in May, I was a part of a bipartisan letter to Senator McConnell and Minority Leader Chuck Schumer on a number of the issues that were brought to attention by the nonprofit community. One of them being the definition of the, you know, small business with 500 employees or less for the nonprofit community. We've seen and the way it was defined for, say, franchise owners or, you know, hotel chains, that they were able to define in a way and have the ability for those small business owners to be able to get PPP. So it's the same kind of model could be available for the nonprofit community. If you're part of a larger national umbrella organization, but you've got an Arizona chapter or a local chapter, treat it the same way. So we engaged, you know, on that issue. Also, the self-employed, I'd love to hear from any of you on the self-insured, unemployment and the impact. I know the CARES Act provided for, I think, 50% to be reimbursed, but, you know, asking for that to just be 100%. Nobody could have imagined when a nonprofit sets up to be, you know, self-insured that we'd be dealing with a pandemic like this. And so, you know, looking for opportunities for us to move something forward so that you're not going to be getting that bill. The charitable the above the line, $300 above the line, and then changing the adjusted gross income limitations for just trying to encourage people to give, give to charities, give to nonprofits that are out there helping people. I did this myself as well. I gave up my paycheck. I'm not independently wealthy, but I have an emergency fund, and this is an emergency, right? To be able to help people, just help organizations out there, help people, personally. But so some people, don't need that incentive, but the tax incentive of being able to have the above the line, and then increasing corporations from being able to do 10% to 25%, just to be able to help, because I want to hear from you how the contributions, how you're seeing. I'm just, assuming there's been some real challenges where you have more need, you probably have less money coming in. You just, it's just extraordinary. I'm being squeezed on both ends, basically, more to do with less resources. So we were trying to do our part at the federal level to incentivize people who could give to be able to give more and give them those tax incentives. And again, love to hear feedback on how that's going for all of you. So as far as the next steps, we have been in painstaking discussions about what more needs to be done. And, the approach we're taking in the Senate anyway is to try and provide targeted relief as we still are fighting to defeat this virus. So we still need to be investing in testing and treatments and cures, because ultimately that's our path out of this, but more targeted relief to small businesses, those that have been impacted, that are still being impacted, businesses with restrictions, very difficult. If you know anybody like in the restaurant business, it's already tough to deal with margins, but if you're under restrictions for long periods of time, many of them are going to go under. So more support to small businesses, support to schools, as they're making modifications, trying to reopen and provide safe in-person support, more support to individuals for the unemployment benefits. And there's, again, we hear from a lot of small businesses that are really having a hard time. I heard from many of them actually today in some other meetings, bringing people back to work. So what's the sweet spot of having the social safety net? Because we're not going to be at 3.5% unemployment anytime soon. As we continue to move forward, we hope to get back there. So we need that real safety net for those who cannot work for health reasons or the job's not there, but we also do want to incentivize work. We don't want to disincentivize work. So how do we balance that with thoughtful public policy? Unfortunately, a lot of this does get politicized because it's Washington, D.C., and that's just what happens. But we're trying to be the adults in the room about targeted relief. We've already invested $3 trillion directly, plus the additional things that we authorized for the Federal Reserve and their facilities and their lending. And so we feel that I feel more support is needed, but we need to be targeted about it and focus on defeating the virus, supporting people being able to provide for their families, do that safely, and anything else we need to do in order to allow people to sensibly and safely, return to work and support our frontline healthcare heroes. So we're in those conversations. They're stalled. If you turn on the TV, you probably can see, although I wouldn't recommend that. It's bad for your health to be watching, cable news throughout the day, but they are stalled right now. So what we're trying to do in the Senate is be the adults in the room and at least bring something forward next week for a vote to try and jumpstart the negotiations again. But ultimately, it's going to take, this is Schoolhouse Rock. It's going to take the House and the Senate and the administration to find some common ground on this. So I get up every morning, glasses half full, hope springs eternal, but it is Washington, D.C., unfortunately in an election year where some things are being politicized. So I really want to hear from all of you to hear what other needs you might have. And some of these things we can address administratively. We've engaged with, Department of Agriculture, for example, on extending the waivers related to school nutrition programs and, things like that. So a lot of these things can be addressed administratively, but if it literally takes an act of Congress, then we do have to get it in a piece of legislation that can get through all bodies. But I want to make sure I stay grounded in what you all really need.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's amazing watching everybody balance that. You mentioned charitable tax deductions, and many of the nonprofit leaders that I've spoken with saw a correlation in giving last year in a drop because of the changes in the tax law with the increase in the standard individual deduction. So, and then COVID hit, and then all modeling and all, it's all gotten so crazy.
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to know causality, right? But yeah.
Right. So in that process, the state tax credit that Arizona offers became very valuable. It was more, because it was a credit, it was more valuable on your taxes. We also had the ruling that either you had to take it as a state or a federal deduction. You couldn't double dip.
Right.
So that all came together about the same time. Is there any talk in the Senate about charitable deductions and how those might get characterized in the future on taxation?
Yes. Again, the conversations right now are still focused on COVID. And I will say in the Senate, Senator James Lankford has really been a key leader on this. He's from Oklahoma, really wanting to increase even more the above the line deduction options. And like many things in the pandemic, if we've seen something as a positive, for the short term, the conversation is why don't we continue it for the longer term? We've seen this with telemedicine, for example, right? If we're seeing changes that are positive in that regard, then why not continue to institute it? So those are certainly conversations that are ongoing. And probably, I don't think, I'd have to go look at it. I don't think extending, I mean, it's for this whole year, obviously, the above the line. So this would be going into calendar year, 2021, that we would have to have additional legislation on to extend that longer. And so that's probably not going to be in what we might vote on next week because we're dealing with the tyranny of the urgent. But I do know there's many conversations about the benefits of that. And again, it's going to be hard to see how much of an impact that made because there's just so much instability going on in the in people's finances and their patterns and their giving. So I think it'd be challenging to see what impact that even made in the CARES Act, just because everything's unstable. But that doesn't mean it's not good policy to be able to encourage people to give who don't itemize. So I'm mindful of it, and as we move forward and we're looking at policies in 2021. I think these are common sense things that we can say, hey, this was popular and people did it. And I guess we could see if people are giving, writing above the line, putting the deduction there, I guess you'll see it when people file. Whether they were incentivized to do that or not is the question, right? Like, I mean, I'm going to give anyway, but other people maybe are motivated differently from that. So I think that's something that makes sense to add. Sorry, my golden retriever is chewing on something down here.
It's not a Zoom call unless a dog makes an appearance somewhere. So
it's a piece of plastic packaging. All right, everybody has to say hi to Boomer just really quick. Say hi, buddy.
Hey.
All right. Anyway, he's a rescue, so also came from a nonprofit supporting rescues.
Nice. I think I'm going to make bumper stickers. Get out of my way. I'm suffering from the tyranny of the urgent. I love that phrase that you just used. So, yeah. Very good. I know you do a lot of work.
We used that a lot in the military. Like that was a way, okay, guys, are we dealing with the tyranny of the urgent right now? So it's yep.
That's a perfect segue because I was going to ask you about some work with veterans. We know that thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of work with veterans. We want to make sure that there's events available for veterans and first responders who are struggling with different issues.
Yeah.
There's also something out there that I don't know a lot about called the Mission Act. Somebody submitted a question about the Mission Act.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give you a few moments to speak on.
Yeah. So, okay. So I get my care at the VA. So I'm like the secret shopper to see the challenges that a lot of veterans have. And look, what we saw happen, if you remember, back when actually, unfortunately, Phoenix VA was ground zero for some of the scandals that were happening where people were cooking the books while veterans were waiting in line for care. And so what we did immediately after that was, and this was actually Senator McCain really led this effort, was something called VA Choice Act. And this was, instead of, spending months trying to solve the problem for the long term, when we had veterans like right now waiting for specialist appointments, we just, we had to do something fast. And so the Choice Act was allowing an initial kind of ability for veterans to get care in the community in a quicker way, right? So if they couldn't get an appointment at the VA, they could at least go downtown and get that care. And what we did with the VA Mission Act is there's all these different, that was one of many care in the community procedures that the bureaucracy had at the VA, which is often very confusing for the veteran. Veterans are often getting bills in the mail. So the VA Mission Act, which was signed into law over a year ago, was streamlining all of the care in the community programs into one, and essentially providing more flexibility for veterans if they lived in a rural area and they didn't feel like taking a 2-hour trip into the Phoenix VA for something, and there was a specialist right there in their rural area, they could go to that. Or if their appointment was going to be too long at a VA facility, they could go out into the community. And so it streamlined all those programs into one. It's been implemented now just for a little while. So, we've already seen some real positives in how veterans are benefiting from this, being able to get the care they need at the place they desire instead of having to, travel or wait in line for care from the VA. So, just like anything, it's the second biggest bureaucracy. We have veterans caseworkers in our office, and sometimes we have veterans that are still, or you have bureaucrats still haven't gotten the message that there's a new system in place, and the veteran needs to get that care. And so we have caseworkers that help our veterans also break through. So if you hear of any veterans that are having issues with the VA, or they feel like they're having to wait too long for something, then have them reach out to my office or any of the congressional delegation. And we have full-time caseworkers to help them. I want to point out 2 more quick things on veterans, if I could. The president just signed into law about 3 weeks ago, my latest bill on veterans treatment courts. This is something I saw firsthand when I first visited the Veterans Treatment Court in Tucson, and they've popped up. I think we've got 9 of them in Arizona. They sort of local initiatives. Honestly, the one in Tucson was a Marine who became a judge and decided to create this treatment court because many veterans come back with post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, and they get mental health issues that are untreated, or addiction issues. They're related to their service, but they just get lost in the shuffle, and some of them get in trouble with the law. And instead of having them, again, spiral down, going into the criminal justice system, it gives them the chance to get treatment and have accountability from other veterans. It's extremely powerful. I'm sitting around a table with a Vietnam vet, a veteran from my generation, and the veteran from the younger generation, several of them, holding each other accountable for their decisions and their treatment. And it's just extraordinary. It saves so many lives from veteran suicide and addiction overdoses. And so my bill actually allows this to now be standardized, like nationwide, managed out of the Department of Justice with technical assistance and grants, so that it's not just you hoping you have someone in your community, but you have the ability to have these all over the country. So that's a really big deal. And there's one more thing I want to point out. There's some nonprofits out there that are doing, I think, tremendous stuff, non-traditional treatment for veterans. A lot of my fellow veterans, they get given a prescription, they get drugged up when they've got post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury. But there's some nonprofits that are doing things related to what's called post-traumatic growth, where again, it's non-traditional approach for with a full kind of wraparound to include every element of your life and your family, to provide opportunities for you, again, not to just be given a prescription, but to find healing and strength from the traumas that you went through. And we've got some in Arizona that are great examples. So I have legislation that's been included now in major vet mental health legislation, specifically with a pilot program on post-traumatic growth, and bringing in nonprofits, because really there's so many nonprofits that have expertise and passion to helping our veterans. And this isn't one size fits all out of the VA and the government. And so at least exploring how nonprofits can be partnering to help veterans, because every veteran is, not going to take the same exact path for their own mental health treatment. So this was originally my piece of this, which was this pilot program, including nonprofits and post-traumatic growth. The VA kicked it out of the bill. They didn't want it in there. And then I pushed the VA committee to push it back in, because I really think insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And we've thrown a lot of money at veterans' mental health, and we still have 20 veterans a day committing suicide. So we've got to try some different things to see what else might work.
Wonderful news. Those are great pieces. I don't think those have been well and wide reported. So that's good to hear. need to compliment both you and Senator Sinema's staff, as you guys have excellent casework both on a local level and out of DC. You know, the customer service that you get, if customer service is the right word, out of both of our Senate offices is exemplary, and I think a model for the country. So thank you. So we only have about 9 minutes. Want to be respectful of your time. I got an interesting question that was sent to us about opportunity zones. And I don't know if you know a lot about opportunity zones. They're being factored in some of our federal feeding programs now. They're being factored in under an executive order for federal agencies to locate projects in opportunity zones, particularly in downtown cores.
Yeah.
Tell us what you know about opportunity zones and what's, you know, there seems like there's some opportunity that's presenting itself there for local communities. So talk more about that.
Absolutely. You know, this was a really incredible initiative that was in the tax cut legislation of 2017. That was Tim Scott's idea, Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. Yeah. And the whole idea is to create the tax incentive for investors to invest in underserved communities. And so a lot of times you have investors that have cash or capital sitting on the sidelines. And so the opportunity zones actually create a tax incentive for them to, you know, create projects. And I've been at the ribbon cutting of several of them. I see Scott Seeley's on the call here. So he's familiar with these as well. You know, in often distressed and underserved communities is an opportunity to create jobs and to help transform communities that are often overlooked. And so it's really an incredible initiative. It was all identified by each state. It was all based on census data, where the zones were created. And we've just seen so far really tremendous examples of that kind of investment, and we can certainly do more. So, we're pushing on more flexibility related to these tax incentives and opportunity zones, because especially as we're recovering from this pandemic, which we will defeat and we will recover. I know we feel like this is our new normal. It's not. We're going to get through this. I think people need to have that kind of realistic optimism that we're still going to need that types of investment, especially in underserved communities. And I don't know if Scott, you want to jump in. I don't want to be too much, but it's really an incredible program that's a lot of people just don't know much about. And I think it's a great model for using tax incentives for private sector investment and things that really matter and make a difference for people. Scott, you want to chime in?
Well, just especially relevant to our group here, it specifically encourages investment in things like low-income housing, community health clinics, potentially the kinds of facilities that the group here uses for food banks and other sorts of things.
Right.
Can be part of opportunity zone projects, and you take investment dollars from successful people in other places. It's to their benefit to put them into projects that have a positive community impact. And
exactly.
As we're looking at especially the area around the chamber and in downtown Mesa, and there's kind of a ribbon along Main Street that falls in the opportunity zone. Affordable housing is one of the obvious things that opportunity zones.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's good to hear about. Especially as we look at the food bank, maybe we need to take advantage of an opportunity zone to finance some streamlining of our operations. One last question for you going out here. There's a lot going on with federal feeding programs. We talked a little bit about the extension of the summer feeding waivers. I think they've been extended to the end of the year. I know there's a push to extend those to the end of the school year if possible. That has to be done by the end of October if they're going to do it administratively. But there's a lot of feeding programs going on with the Farmers to Family Boxes, TFAP, SNAP. Talk a little bit about continuing support for farmers, for food manufacturers, and food banks going forward as the pandemic hopefully begins
absolutely.
to slow down.
I mean, as you know, there was a lot in the CARES Act related to this, $850 million for, support to food banks, both administrative and the actual, purchasing the farmers' food and bringing them to the food banks. I volunteered at several food banks during April and May, seeing firsthand the benefit of that. I think 600 million of that was set aside specifically for that. And then you've got the farmers to family. I think 5 million of those food boxes have already been delivered. So the authorization, there's no end date in the CARES Act related to that. It's a matter of we appropriated the money, and then administratively, they've had dates that they keep pushing on some of these things, like the school nutrition programs. So we're keeping an eye on the the expenses of, or the appropriations of it to. As far as I know, there's still enough resources in there to continue these programs. So it's not like we need an act of Congress to reauthorize, past a certain date. So we've engaged with the administration on several of these to continue to move the dates. Because I think one of them, I want to say the extension of the SNAP benefits, something expires on September 18th, I want to say. But they're expected, we're hearing anyway, that they're expected to extend that further. But that's all administrative. So what we do is we engage with, Department of Agriculture, and we say, hey, you really need to extend this date. And as long as the resources are there, this is something I think that is a pretty no-brainer thing to do, to be able to help get through the remainder of the year. On the school year, though, Dave, which thing do you say we need to?
So yeah. the summer feeding waivers, they've been using that authorization to serve off-site, not off-site meals, but non-cafeteria style meals.
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah. But you're saying we have to, in order to do that through the entire school year, it has to happen before the end of October?
Yeah. There's an additional waiver that can take place for it to be able to run to the end of the year.
Got it.
That hasn't been authorized.
Okay.
Yet. So
okay.
if it goes past the end of October, then it needs an act of Congress to do it. So.
Okay, got it. That's good to know. All right. I generally say, like, does this literally take an act of Congress? And, sometimes it does. But if it doesn't, that's easier, especially right now. But thanks for bringing that to our attention. So that's
of the urgent, right? Yeah. So,
exactly.
I do need to compliment and thank the work that has happened on the federal side related to CARES Act in getting resources out for us to be able to handle the surge of people that have been unemployed and looking for food assistance. We felt very well supported, and so want to thank you. And I know a lot of the colleagues of ours on this call, their organizations benefited in a number of ways from the food boxes and the food that was put out there.
Awesome.
Food has a tremendous calming effect on the public, and if they have the resources that they need. Now, toilet paper, that's a whole different story, but for food, at least people were able to eat. And so I want to thank you guys for the work you did on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Like I said, this is all of society, right? So we just, we've got resources out there, but we're not the operators on the ground. You all are, right? So we had to get them out to state and local governments, get it out available for nonprofits. You're the ones that are meeting people's needs on the ground. I'll tell you, when I was volunteering at the food bank, just like heart-wrenching stories, as you know, families coming through rough circumstances, never needed assistance before, first time coming through. No kidding, sent someone on my team when I was volunteering at the Salvation Army who, needed maxi pads. And I was like, we need some maxi pads. And I said, one of the guys on my team, go buy some maxi pads. Just stop being embarrassed. Like these people need support, and here's my credit card. Just go get them, but it's just like, it's just, there's just so much need there. And from so many people who, people up and down my street where I live, we're living paycheck to paycheck, and all of a sudden the floor falls out from underneath them. And, eventually they got the stimulus check but you got to get through those weeks. If you're living week to week to week, you've got to be able to get through. So you guys were all, standing in the gap for these people. We were just putting fuel in the tank, but you all were meeting the needs on the ground, and the intent, was to get those resources out as many ways possible to help people. So thanks so much for all your hard work during a very uncertain time.
Thank you. On behalf of all the members of the Nonprofit Vitality Council, we appreciate you taking some time. I promised we'd end at 5 o'clock. It's now 5 o'clock. If you want to take a minute or two to wrap up, or if you feel, I didn't know if you wanted to, if you want to talk about something I didn't ask you about that you felt was urgent for the nonprofit group to know.
Well, just stay engaged. I mean, we've got great relationships with you. Our staff does, but keep us posted. If you ever have any ideas, like we're in the midst of a lot of conversations. So if you have ideas of things that need to get fixed, either administratively or they take an act to Congress, we happen to be in a position to do that. So we often get great brainstorming ideas from meetings like this that we bring back and say, hey, let's try and institute this and make it happen. So there's no bad ideas in the brainstorming phase, right? Is always the way it is. So just get those ideas to us, and we're all in this together. As you know, we're doing our part. You all are stepping in the gap and helping so many people under extraordinarily challenging circumstances. We will get through this, but keep engaged with us. Let us know what your needs are, what ideas you may have. And we're here representing, and honored to be in the position to be able to do that.
Thank you, Senator McSally. Appreciate your time. Sally, I'll kick it back to you.
I think everything was said that needed to be said. Senator, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We appreciate your staff, and anytime you want to come back and give us more updates, just let us know.
All right.
Thanks for Abby. We love Abby. She does a great job.
Yes, we do.
All right. Great. She's right here.
Senator.
All right.
Thank you all.
Bless you guys. Hang in there. Take care.
Thank you.